But hmm, that was good. What up? Mm, yeah. What's good, y'all? Give me a one if you guys can hear me okay. Let's see here. Oh, good. Now I'm seeing it. So y'all giving me some ones. All right. Shout out to everybody there. What's up, Dr. Thunder? What's good? King Speech. Michael, what's up? Kennard. Chef Mike, what's happening, man? Adrian. Phil. Devo, GC. Dell. Black Males, GRP. Passport. What's up, man? Eviscerator. Let's see here. So fresh, so clean in the building. What's going on, y'all? Well, as some of you may remember from my community tab, I went through about 3 mixers in a week. So I finally got this mixer hooked up, and I was just kind of wanted to pop up, make sure you guys could hear me okay. Let me know if there's any sound problems. What's up, Just Drains? Appreciate that. Dr. L, what's happening? Let's see here. Hortense, what's up? Let's see. Big Ock, what's going on? Yeah. I got a little, we're going to go through a little bit, but I'm not going to it's not going to be a full show. This is really just a test run, but I can't just pop up and waste people's time. So we are going to go through a little something just to kind of make sure we're on the same page and you guys kind of know where some of the stuff I wanted to put down. So 78 people in here so far. Please make sure you hit the like button. Let's see. Man, I'm not hearing. That's weird. Okay, let's try this one. Can hear that one a little better at least. All right. All right. What's up, Busy Mike? Unscripted. Let's see. GRP said Dr. Neil mixers were inferior to Thundercat sword. Appreciate it, Chef Mike. Y'all know what it is. I've been, man, if the kid in me could show up right now and just actually play with these, well, I'd probably be in a hospital. But I used to want these my whole life, and I didn't even know they were being made. I didn't always even find toy versions back in the day. So, you finally get a grown-up job, and then you find out they actually making them. Y'all know what happens then. What's up, Black Nerd? Yeah, I know. I just popped up. I just literally just hit the live button. I didn't put anything out there. I really didn't even name it. I didn't even do a thumbnail. I just want to kind of pop up, make sure everything's working. No. Passport. There's a couple lightsabers. You got the dark blade. Was it right there? And then you can't see it, but right below it is Samuel Jackson's character's blade. His name escapes me at the minute, but y'all know the deal. So yeah, I got a few lightsabers in here. They're just not all in frame. Shout out to Cameron. Appreciate that support. So it's peace to you as well. Shout out to Growth Talk. What's good with you, man? Keith, what's going on? Yeah. All right. So not to hold everybody too long. If y'all can hear me okay, I'm glad, because it's been a minute. My last mixer sounded like it was on its last leg. So at least we're finally moving. Yeah. So, all right. So let me share a little bit with y'all, just so that we can get some of this up here. Delonte, what's going on? All right. Let's see if this works the way it should. Kind of had to reconfigure a bunch of stuff. So, I tested a bunch of stuff out, but sometimes it's not till you do a show that you find out there's some things you didn't test. You never know how they are. Passport says it is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Indeed. OJ, what's going on? Says peace. I'm almost done with the book. It's very informative. Appreciate that, man. Make sure you shoot me your thoughts when you get a chance. That book, I wanted to really just highlight how the Gynocracy kind of came to be. Because I was just telling my boy Dr. Smith earlier today that the thing about the Gynocracy is, for those of us that bled, blood, sweat, and tears trying to outline this argument, women for years, including women in our families, were gaslighting us, telling us it didn't exist, telling us we didn't know what we were talking about. And then I'd say since January, I've never seen this many videos of women popping up saying, yep, we traded our men for checks. We traded them for access. Now, all of a sudden, it's common knowledge. You know how much blood it took for us, for some of us to find this information and make the arguments we made and get and experience hatred, sincere hatred from colleagues, male and female, black and non-black, all because we're making these arguments. And as soon as the economy gets tight, then you got women popping up saying, yep, you're right. We did it. It's there. Seen a video today of a woman talking about, I think this is one of the ones Dr. L interviewed, but she was talking about, yeah, we owe our men an apology. I was like, okay, so I've been saying that for the last decade, and I was every bit of misogynist. And as soon as a woman says it, it's mind blowing to me, right? Now, this chart, y'all know I've already done a show on this, because I think prior to this, it only had 9. And so when I did this show, I was adding the 10th one, greater access to the nonprofit industrial complex, which we know at this point is pretty much diminished, if not dismantled, by Trump. Shout out to Incognito, Negro. Appreciate that support. Nothing clever on my part. Good that you're up and running, Doc, man. Appreciate it. Let me see. Tim Howard, what's good? Hit the like button. Please do so. Please do so. Support the show. Hit the like button. Unbiased one, if you go to my website, hasanjohnson.com, you should see the email at the top of the screen. Hit me up. We can talk. I'm sitting on so many dissertation committees right now, just trying to make sure brothers who want to do black male studies can get out. That it can kind of be hard to keep up with, but one brother just graduated from Harvard a few weeks ago, so that's an open seat now. So if anybody has some serious work they're trying to do in black male studies and they need an advocate and some support, holla at me, and if I can, I will try and find a way to help. Black Nerd says, why is your book only in hardcover? They're releasing it in paperback now. I found out just randomly going to the website, and then all of a sudden I see a paperback option. But when I wrote the book, first of all, it was part of a series, and the series was 50,000 words. So I had to shorten it, and trust me when I tell you that was really difficult. I've probably written 3 books worth of information, but I never published it. So that book, I only used about 50,000 words because that's what the series required, or that was the limitation. And they don't do paperback right away. They do hard copy until they reach a certain number of sales. And I can't remember what that number is. And then they release it in paperback. So apparently it'll be out in paperback. I mean, it's on the website to order now. I don't remember the date, but it's up. So yeah. And I prefer paperback. So I'm probably going to pick up another copy just like that. And I am working on a second book. So I was just saying that book, I'm framing the Gynocracy, and not 2 years after I put the book out, you got women themselves admitting what they've done. And it blew me away, right? But that book is where you got all the data, you got all the statistics, you got all the citations. So when you make an argument about the quality of life differences in the last 65 years for black men and women, That book will help you outline that argument, whether you're doing your own research, or whether you just want to make sure you can articulate things and back it up when somebody challenges you about where you got the argument from, and so on and so forth. That's what that book is for. The book I'm thinking about doing next really has to do with in some respects, the fall of the gynocracy. And I'm not going to limit it to that, but I really kind of want to highlight why they did it and what's happening now. Because I think a lot of people are really underestimating how fragile this gynocracy is. I call it a gynocracy because it's not a naturally forming thing. It only exists because of the largesse, well, I don't even say largesse, the manipulative, strategic use of Black women against the community. And they're not the only ones. The Black students were turned against the movement in the 70s. You got the use of LGBT, you got class, you got race, you got age, you got occupation, you name it. There were so many different aspects of our experience that were turned against each other. And this is really after the civil rights movement. Matter of fact, it's used to dismantle the civil rights movement, and feminism, i.e. Black women, were the first major tool of opposition used. But the thing is, we've talked about, if you've been in pro-Black circles, if you've been in Black studies, we've talked about race, class, sex, gender, we've talked about age, we've talked about color, we've talked about all these dimensions. And the only time we talk about gender is in relation to women, or maybe girls, right? And to some extent, well, to a large extent after 2000, LGBT. But we have tap danced around Black men. And the argument in the field is that we know all there is to know about Black men. So there's really nothing else to say. We know everything. So now you got brothers in the last 10, 15 years who finally have their own platform. And we've been discovering to what extent our experience has really been downplayed and ignored. Our real experience in mainstream discourse has been reduced to incarceration and abuse and sex. Right? These are mostly other people telling the world what Black men have to say, and what Black men's contribution to the downfall, if we can use that term temporarily, of the Black community. We've had other people tell us and the world what we have to say, and it's been reduced to sex, prison, drugs, abuse. But when Black men actually started comparing notes and having dialogue, it pissed a lot of people off, especially in the Black community. Mainly because, for the most part, Black women are not used to being criticized. They're used to doing the criticizing. They want to get you told, so they're used to having the last word. But beyond that, even amongst the men, we've been socialized to serve. We've been taught that chivalry, especially in relation to our sense of nationalism, that are one and the same. And that to criticize her is to disrespect her, and to disrespect her is to disrespect the Black community. We've been raised with this. From mothers and grandmothers and aunties, we've been raised with this sensibility. And in so doing, we've held the brunt of the critique about the community, most particularly for the last half century, but assuredly longer than that. But it's actually time that Black men actually be able to speak full-throatedly about their experiences. And that's what we're doing, regardless of how it makes people feel. I'm not here to try and upset you. If you are upset, that is your business. I'm not here to blame the entirety of the Black experience on Black women, but I am here to talk about what has been tap danced over, swept under the rug, and pretended to not exist. Every other issue Black folk face, we talked about at length. We have not talked about Black women's contributions, and the main one is the white subsidized gynocracy. And so these first 10 points outline that gynocracy, how it came to be. See, some people think, well, unless I can see Black women just getting paid more across the board for their labor, then there's no such thing as a gynocracy. But what you're failing to understand is when you're dealing with a relatively poor community, especially in relation to other communities, and not a poor community because it simply lacks, but a poor community because we have been economically shifted into that category, right? It's not an accident. Anytime we organized well enough to expand and push beyond neighboring white towns, what do? They burned it down. There wasn't just one Tulsa or one Rosewood. There were dozens. You know what I mean? There were drowned towns, right? Black progress was stymied with intense hatred. If they couldn't do it in terms of policy, they did it in terms of vigilante justice, as they would term it, right? But vigilante violence, whether individual or group oriented. Shit, Tulsa was the first city in the world to be bombed from the air simply because Black folks were doing well. So Black poverty is not a naturally occurring thing. It's very much orchestrated, but it is a real thing. And because our impoverishment was structurally created, we had to grapple with that. So when you're dealing with a poor community and you want to turn it against itself, you could take half the population, Black women in this case, especially, those who are participatory in activist groups like in civil rights movements and churches, so on and so forth. Women were very active. You can turn that community, that demographic against itself, it'll fall under its own weight. And then you add in the student movements, and then you add in the professional class, and then you add in, color, and then you add in, all these other components, LGBT, and it further turns in on itself over and over and over again. And there are waves of it that happen at different points in time, right? Gynocracy didn't start in the 60s and 70s, but that was a significant augmentation of it, right? But this chart, what I'm highlighting for you is that it's not just about, white society, handing Black women a bunch of money. That's not the argument. That's not what a gynocracy is. It is not a naturally forming institution. It is an institution that was developed by giving a certain degree of access to one group versus another. You see the same thing when you see an NGO, non-governmental organization, making its way into a foreign territory, right? So you got an American NGO in an African country or something of that nature. Any community that's foreign, right? Especially if it's impoverished to some degree, it doesn't take a lot to turn that community against itself. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't even have to be money. It could simply be the sense of status associated with whatever that NGO is providing. Whatever. It could be nominal. It could be symbolic. And it'll still be enough to turn people against themselves. Now, with Black women, it's not that they got paid a lot of money per se, but they were more readily employed amongst a number of other things. So you can see it here, right? They were excused from military drafting. They had access to welfare because of the man in the house rule that many Black men didn't have. And furthermore, some states argued that the man had to be in another state altogether. And because we were so poor and migrating from the South, moving into the Midwest and the North, some of us intentionally, as planned between husband and wife, the man would leave so the kids in the family could eat. Because the only other option was to go back down south and sharecrop, right? So the man in the house rule was an unnecessary intrusion into poor Black families that disrupted that dynamic and pushed the man out. But after a couple of generations of that, no man present. And if anything, even the son who grows into a young man becomes a threat to the security of the family, especially if he commits an illegal act and is living in a welfare domicile. Family can be pushed out. So men become perceived as a threat, even young men who grow into their manhood. Right? If a man was found in the house, and they would check, they would send social workers in to look for razors in the bathroom, shoes in the closet, jackets, so on and so forth. Anything that suggested a man had been present and might have been contributing to the resources to the house, right? All that was considered a problem. It's good, chaos, right? So that said, men become a threat to their own families, just in terms of the family being able to continue to receive welfare. You got family court, which becomes a serious issue after no-fault divorce, right? Where courts lean in favor of women in terms of child custody, right? Child support, alimony, so on and so forth. This is not something that men can take for granted, that they will be assessed in court on just terms. Most men accept that this is not going to go their way. Most women accept this as well. But women, of course, are not opposed to enjoying the benefits of being, the deferred to parent in the dynamic. They're considered the aggrieved one when it comes to divorce, right? You got birth control And up till recently, I did a show about the male pill, right? Where they say there's no side effects. But notice how that pill wasn't around in 1970, 1969 when it came to men. All the pill options were for women. So this gave women carte blanche control of reproduction. Men didn't have it. And when you further magnify that by looking at that dynamic in the Black community, you got relatively poor men whose sexual nature is weaponized against them, right? If you have sex, even if the child is not yours, and this is pre-DNA technology, she can say it's yours and your whole life changes, unless you run and then you just become a deadbeat. But all of the power in that narrative, with the court leaning on you on her behalf, right? Tells you who has the power in the dynamic. It's not a naturally occurring power that she just has because it's a power given by the state. But it's not refused. Black women didn't stand up and say, you know what, we see how these things are being used against our community and we're not going to contribute. No. Many of them, and I won't say all of them, and I hate this all against many shit. There's always outliers. I've met women that did not take their husbands to court, that amicably divorced their husbands and split what they had without going to court. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But as a norm, when women realized how they could use the court to kick the men in the balls, they happily engaged in doing so. Right? Title IX, we talked about that in the last show, right? They were able to benefit. Even though technically by the letter of the law, sex discrimination includes men, in practice it didn't. Right? K through 12 overwhelmingly leaned in girls' favor. I just watched a clip from Richard Reeves. I think it was a CNN interview. I might do a show on it separately, where he yet again advocated for boys being held back from starting school because they're inherently less mature than girls, which I think is absolute bullshit. I don't think the question is about who's smarter or who's more mature. I think the question is about pedagogy. And if you actually create a school system with male teachers, with a pedagogy that's rooted around male learning. See, but the problem is we don't want to acknowledge that boys and girls learn differently. We're still on this sexual idea that we're all the same. We're just all the same template. It's just some people have vaginas and some people have penises. That's it, right? We're all the same. But as soon as you acknowledge that for the most part, boys and girls are different in a number of key ways, least of which, I won't say least of which, but one of the most important, I guess I should say, is testosterone. There's just a different learning that needs to take place in a different way. It does not mean boys can't learn. It just means boys learn differently. And when you hold girls' learning style as the standard, then of course boys are going to fail. It would happen in the reverse. If the pedagogy was based on boys' learning styles, girls would fail. But they don't look at it that way. And I disagree with Richard Reeves on that. But the K through 12 system in and of itself uses, girls learning as a template. And thus it leans in their favor. And that doesn't even speak to the majority of female teachers who are going to impose what they know, their own experience. Yeah. So there's that. Got a whole separate conversation going on in the chat. I got to catch up on that one. See where y'all at. Financial aid impacting who gets to go to college. And if you've been to prison, especially going through the 80s and 90s, this adversely affected your ability to go, especially when we shut down access to degrees in prison, which used to be a turning point for a lot of men, made it even worse. You had affirmative action hiring, which of course later became DEI, and both of which granted Black women double minority status. Of course, they didn't benefit as much as white women, but they were, because white women deemed themselves a minority. So they took the lion's share of any resources earmarked for Black and brown folk. Nevertheless, Black women received double minority status, which left Black men on the out in a system that was initially designed for them to catch up. Black women did not complain about double minority status, nor did they complain that Black men couldn't benefit to the extent that they could. We had gynocentric media. This is something that Passport has been doing shows on. He did one today dealing with Oprah and the 80s and the 90s talk shows, films, all of that leaned in Black women's favor and presupposed Black women's experiences as a norm, treated Black men as an aberration who only existed to fail Black women's expectations. Medium Band is doing an excellent series right now. Go check out Passport OG's channel. Check out Media Man's channel. They're doing an interesting review of 80s and 90s media culture, gynocentric media culture. And you can see how in the last 30 years, 40 years, how media was an institution unto itself used to denigrate Black males. Right? This added to the superiority complex many women developed in the Black community over their men. Right? When you add in the entitlement that comes about through a number of the other points I've already covered, you know what I mean? You add that to what's being shown in the media, you come to a sense of superiority. You come to a default position that these niggas just need to step it up because they're beneath us. All of these experiences enhance that sense of entitlement. In a way, I would be shocked if they weren't entitled after all of this. But the problem is you'll have a hard time having a woman admit to you that all of these things had an impact on her worldview, let alone would they admit that these things actually occurred. They didn't start doing so until they started losing jobs. Then all of a sudden, Black love became a factor again. But I can tell you, for the last 30 years, independence was the name of the game. Not needing the nigga was the name of the game. It's only been changing really in the last few months. And it's just really not striking us as sincere. So we'll have to see how that process goes. And of course, number 10, greater access to nonprofit industrial complex. So we've been seeing this for years. I think it culminated in the Fearless Fund. Not because it was any bigger or smaller than any other, but because it got a lot of notoriety when it became the face of these kind of Black women grant organizations. Kind of became the face of it when they were sued. And the practice was dismantled from there about a year before Trump was elected. Right? So by the time that started to happen, it started to have a huge impact. But if you're about my age, I'm 50, I remember. At least I'll be 50 until October 3rd. I gotta remember my birthday's coming up. But anyway, if you're 50, around my age, you remember in the 80s and 90s how many Black women were setting up nonprofits and getting grant money hand over fist. There were a couple of brothers that were able to do it, but for the most part, it was a maze that was preset for women to benefit from. There was a whole economy around this notion of the nonprofit. And I remember women telling men, why don't y'all just get your shit together and do a nonprofit like we did? And they refused to acknowledge that they had they had access more than we did. They just looked at it as Black men failed. That's what they did. They looked at it as Black men failed because they couldn't do what they were doing. And it's not because we were barred from it. They looked at it as just because we were just not as savvy. So these are the 10. I'm adding 2 more, and they're pretty common sense. Matter of fact, I'm a little blown away that I didn't add them before. Number 11, right? Black women's lower unemployment rates. Now, in regard to women, for the most part, the rule of thumb is, compared to, say, white women, yes, Black women's unemployment was higher. But compared to Black men, it's not really a contest. Not that it should be, but we do have to look at these things comparatively if we're trying to understand some of the techniques used to dismantle the Black community. And you got to remember, whether you like the civil rights movement or not, it had global notoriety. The world was paying attention to this small community of former enslaved folk living in the United States. The whole world was paying attention. The United States was going up against the Soviet Union, trying to prove who had the best system after World War II. So this was huge in the midst of the Cold War. Everybody's paying attention to this small group of folks who were getting hoses and dogs pit on them, and the world was paying attention. That could not be sustained. That they would not allow that to continue. That had to be dismantled. And by the time we get to the 1970s, it was. It absolutely was dismantled. It didn't take but a minute before the entire community was turned against itself. And I can tell you in academia, I'd say in the 80s, you had a movement of divesting from South Africa. And although you had small little upstarts here and there about various issues, for the most part, I didn't see a massive movement take place again until you got to 2014, BLM, that kind of thing. But there was a massive gap in activism, because in the 70s, we were turned against each other in a very significant way, in a way that people are deeply invested in and still to this day won't let go of. Shout out to Donnie. Appreciate that support. 12 Labors of John Henry's real talk. Yeah. But lower unemployment rates. So that meant that basically Black women more readily were employed for decades. They didn't get paid as much as white women did. And Tone Talks made a, mentioned this earlier tonight when he did his show. He said something that he said before, and I've said for years, that when you factor in incarceration, Black men ended up making about 51 cents on the dollar. Black women, I think, were around 63. White women were somewhere in the 70% on every white male dollar. But Black men's, access to resources and employment significantly lower, and that's been the case for decades. So one of the benefits of the gynocracy is not that Black women were handed a pot of gold, but they were handed, right, a white collar job that offered them consistent pay. It's one of the most interesting things. I remember for the last 20 years, I used to meet women that had okay jobs, like at the IRS or the post office or something of that nature, but they'd have a nice apartment, they'd have a car. I'm not talking about a Maserati and a mansion, but they'd have a nice apartment and a car. And they would be complaining about all the brothers they dated were, couch surfing, living with their mothers, coming out of prison, right? This is where the rubber hits the surface in terms of employment, right? I'm not talking about the men that did well. Salute to the brothers that did well. I'm one that did well. So I'm not denying that we exist, but you can't just focus on the small percentage of men that did well and ignore all the brothers that had a different experience. You got to look at us as a category unto ourselves. And Black men struggle. Employment has always been an issue for us. And if you vary it by age, it can increase dramatically, especially if you get down to 18 years old. But the point I'm getting at here is that Black women having more access to consistent employment, even if it didn't pay a lot, that's a significant difference if when you compare it to a cat that hasn't been able to find a job. And I'm going back to deindustrialization. I'm going back to the 70s and the 80s. There's a reason that drugs took off in the 80s. It wasn't just because everybody loved getting high. It had everything to do with limited employment options, right? So having consistent access to employment is a huge deal. And I'm gonna show you. All right. So this is the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics report as of August 2025. And I kind of highlighted in blue the unemployment rates and numbers for men and the unemployment rates and numbers for Black women. And you can see all the conversation's been about May, what happened between really February and May, right? So you can see if you look at unemployment rates, hold on, let me make it full here. There we go. All right. So when you look at the unemployment rates for April, for Black men, it's 5.6. For Black women, it's 6.1. Now, this became a novelty in the mainstream because they weren't used to seeing Black women's numbers higher than ours. Nobody was really used to it, right? So this, everybody flipped out, and they're still doing reports on what happened in May. 5.2 unemployment rate for men, 6.2 unemployment rate for women, Black women, right? Now, January, you kind of saw it flip the other way, but for a good few months, you saw it flip where Black women lost jobs to a greater extent. But then we get to June, right? When we get to June, 6.9 unemployment rate for Black men, 5.8 for Black women. July, 7.0 for Black men, right? 6.3 for Black women. I'm sorry, it's not lined up there. My apologies there. For August, 7.1% for Black men and 6.7% for Black women, which in many ways is a return to form because Black men have been the ones to have to grapple with employment for decades. It was just kind of an anomaly that Black women experienced our rates of unemployment. In other words, one of the things that they're experiencing since Trump took office is Black male life. That's really what it is. They're experiencing Black male life. Realistically, for the first time in half a century. That's what's happening. That's what all the frustration is about. Black women are experiencing the black male quality of life in the United States for the first time in half a century, probably since we've been sharecropping. And they don't like it. They find it distasteful. It's not very fun. It's not exciting. There are no cruises, raffles, trips, Fendi bags. I don't know what the fucking thing is. I don't follow none of it, so I don't know. But this is what they're dealing with. So for us, unfortunately, we're seeing a kind of return to form. We've always had higher unemployment rates than white folk, and then our own women, if you will, and black women. We've had higher rates. We saw a few months where they had higher rates. Some dudes were dancing and celebrating, but I understand. I get it. You celebrated because you finally got to see them experience something they've been gaslighting us about the black male experience. Because their narrative was the reason you guys are experiencing that is the same talking points white society had. And this goes for black feminists in the academy as well, who were copying over white racists' work about us, right? You guys are lazy, you don't want to work, so on and so forth. But then when they lost 300 plus thousand jobs, there was a lot of silence, and crying, understandably so, but still. And for a lot of men, there was a moment of, how's that feel? But America is gonna keep Americaning, so we're back to form, at least so far through August. Black men are experiencing unemployment. The major difference between black men and women in regard to unemployment is, one, we never expected a safety net. We've never had one, so we don't flip out. And that's not to say we shouldn't, but the point is we don't, because for us this is just life. And we have to figure out how to navigate it. This is what it is. For black women, it's an affront to their quality of life because they haven't had to live it this way. That's not to say there haven't been poor black women who are on the streets. I'm not saying that. But when you actually look at the rates of unemployment, when you look at the rates of homelessness, I've done many shows on this. Black women's homelessness alone is hidden. And they kind of have a hidden homelessness kind of thing because they're able to more readily sleep on people's couches, even with kids in tow. Nobody has a problem leaving black men to sleep outside. That's not a problem. Black women, it's a whole nother thing. So you see shelters dedicated to women and children. You'll see friends, girlfriends, parents, associates, work partners who will allow them to sleep on a couch, take an extra bedroom. For black men, and then it became fashionable in the last couple of years for black women to live out of their cars. And instead of just saying, we're struggling, some of them tried to sell it as a fucking lifestyle. Some kind of elevated, luxurious poverty. It's fucking ridiculous. But for black men, nobody, when you sleep under a bridge, whether you have a job or not, anybody losing any sleep about that. So we have a different experience there, right? So keeping up with homelessness rates is difficult when you deal with black men and black women, because there's a certain level of empathy for women that socially we don't have it as a society for black men. So the raw numbers of black men that are out there are kind of easier to see. That's going on. All right, so going back a little bit, you got the two things we were talking about, right? Lower unemployment rates. So you see, even in 2025, we had a moment. Seems to be a return to form, although at much higher numbers in terms of overall black unemployment, but most particularly black male unemployment. But then we got to get to incarceration. And I am shocked that I didn't have this listed years ago, but it just dawned on me a couple of weeks ago. I was like, wait a minute, I never added incarceration to the Gynocracy, in the sense that they're not used to going to jail. Lately, I've done a number of shorts and videos showing black women getting arrested. And one of the things you notice is the absolute shock that they have when they actually get cuffs put on them. And it's actually kind of warranted, because for so long they didn't. They didn't have, they could act a fool, they could attack people, most particularly their men, and have a fair amount of assurance that nothing was really going to happen to them. You know what I mean? I've seen murders committed and they'll get out in 2 weeks. There was one assault. This was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I reported on in my show, where a woman shot her boyfriend because he was going to break up with her because he walked in and caught her cheating on him. She shot him. He went to the hospital. By the time he woke up and managed to get out of the hospital, she had already gotten out of jail. This is what they were used to, if they had to go at all. I mean, guys can tell you stories about abusive situations, whether they were bidirectional or unidirectional, coming from women to men. And somebody would call the police. Maybe it was a neighbor. God forbid it was her. But even if you called the police, you might be the ones leaving in cuffs. And women knew that that was a possibility. That was why Sha'Carri Richardson's situation was so egregious, because she knew by trying to turn the cops on him, the possibility that he might get arrested or killed for anything. She knew that that was a possibility. And she also knew that that's not something women generally suffer from in the Black community. We don't see high homicide rates from police to women, Black women at that. It is what it is. You can get mad at it. You can tell me I'm wrong. I'm not defending the cops because I love cops. I'm just saying this is the truth of the situation. Even white cops don't go out their way to kill Black women. They just, statistically, they don't. Right? But they've had decades of a solid kind of sensibility that they weren't gonna suffer. Nothing was gonna happen to them. The cops were called for the most part. You weren't gonna get custody of the kids because she acted out. I've seen women get out of jail for drugs and abuse and fighting and robbing and manage to get their kids back from good fathers who are attentive and supportive of their children. They still get their custody back. Right? This is the reality of what these women were used to. They knew that this was the reality of their existence, and they lived in it and comfortably did so. So it's only been lately that I've started to see more women, going to jail for their behavior. And one of the things you notice is that they're constantly shocked. But I'm saying that their shock is not unwarranted. It's there because they haven't had to. But men know we're held responsible for what we say or do. Like, in the last 6 months, I've been watching videos online of women getting arrested. I've seen them getting caught for bank fraud, writing checks that they knew were illegal. I've seen them get caught stealing at Walmart. I've seen them get busted for assault on other women or men. And one of the things I notice in each of those situations is they will get indignant. They'll jump in the cop's face and scream and cuss and spit at them, yell, hit, and be shocked when they're put in the back of a police car. But see, this is different for Black men because we know that there's no leeway. There's no history of leeway where we can, punch a cop and not have repercussions. Well, we can't even flex at a cop without repercussions. I'm not saying some of us don't. But ain't nobody surprised. Even the dude that gets shot is not surprised when he flexed on a cop in the first place. Women get surprised. Like, what do you mean? I have to be arrested and put in the back of this car. How dare you? We'll see them do it. Make up lies, the entire situation, trying to get out of it. And the only reason they do is not because they're stupid. It's because that shit used to work. They could literally throw a tantrum and police would let them go. Men have never had that sensibility because we knew that was never our reality. Now, when I was in graduate school, one of the things that I first learned about in regard to feminism was the high rates of Black female incarceration. They never, however, would actually talk about raw numbers. And this is one of the first things that set me on a path toward Black male studies, because at the time, this was probably around 2010 through 2013, I think there was about 60,000 Black women in prison, and there were somewhere between 800,000 and 900,000 Black men. And throughout years of graduate school study, none of my feminist professors would ever give me the raw numbers. They would give me rates, and the rates, would show that Black women were getting arrested way more than everybody else. But, the difference is if you got 10 people in a room and 10 more people walk in, that's 100% increase. You know what I mean? You got 5,000 people in a room and 1,000 get added in, statistically, it doesn't sound anywhere near as dramatic as 100% increase. But you got 6,000 people in the room versus 20. You know what I'm saying? This is the dynamic about men and women in terms of Black feminism and the experiences of Black men that I had to learn about on my own. After I finished grad school, I had to learn about what was denied me because I trusted these professors to tell me the truth. And I had no sense whatsoever that these Black women professors would not tell me these dynamics as they were, speaking on behalf of Black women's experiences. But this is current. So we're dealing with this 2022 numbers. And as you can see, in the US, Black men have significantly higher imprisonment rate than Black women. In 2022, Black men were imprisoned at a rate of 1,826 per 100,000 residents, compared to 64 per 100,000 for Black women. While the lifetime likelihood of imprisonment for Black men born in 2001 decreased from previous generations, it remains higher than for white men. Black women are also imprisoned at a higher rate than other racial and ethnic groups of women. Though the gap between Black and white women's imprisonment rates has narrowed over time. Imprisonment rates and trends, Black men in 2022, give you the same numbers, shows you the Black women's numbers. Lifetime likelihood, Black men used to be 1 out of 3. And in terms of likelihood of imprisonment, it's dropped to 1 out of 5, which I'm glad to hear, right? Because we were getting a little too close to 1 million men incarcerated a number of years ago, probably about 2012. And the thing about that is that it's not just those incarcerated. It's also what happens to those who are out of prison, right? What kind of job options did they have? Employment options? What were the recidivism rates? Because there were no employment options. The likelihood of going back to prison because you really had no means of supporting yourself, let alone family. And the social expectation as a man is that you do, or else you're trifling, right? So these kind of things had a negative feedback loop for Black men, even if you were out of prison. So it wasn't just those who were incarcerated, it was also those who got out and still had a difficult time, right? So even though we're seeing these numbers drop, this is the reality. And I bring this up merely to highlight that even though it doesn't have to mean, when you talk about a gynocracy, that somebody handed them a pot of money and put them in mansions and left Black men to sleep outside, that's not what a gynocracy is. If anything, BGS and I have talked about this for years as a kind of female-led patriarchy in the Black community. It's sort of a female patriarchy. But again, it's not a naturally forming dynamic. It's one that's subsidized by the state, by white society. And it served a very particular political function. And it didn't have to require a lot. The magic beans that many, women, you could say, sold out for was just not to have the Black male experience. You didn't have to go to jail like he did. You didn't have to be as unemployed as he did. You didn't have to be as underrepresented in the media as he did. You didn't have to experience being booted out of school from K through 12 and blocked at college and higher university levels, graduate school. That's what it was for the most part. You could have access to welfare if you were or underclass. You have access to college if you were working class, and you can get a white collar job. And even if it paid somewhere between 50,000, 40,000 to 60,000, that's a huge difference from nothing. But essentially the gynocracy in and of itself, what we describe as a gynocracy, and the reason we don't call it a matriarchy, one of the reasons we don't is the matriarchy is centered around the mother. That's not how the Black community functions. It's centered around females. Even in families, who's considered the head of the family, who are considered the decision makers, it'll often go to females, not just the mothers, right? Especially if you start talking about satellite family members connected through blood, but living in different households. Head of household standards are tied around the most consistent income. I've seen celebrities, right? Rappers and actors whose wives, for example, are like school teachers. And he may make a good pot of money once or twice a year. He may be in the news. He may see his music videos on TV or whatever. But after he pays off some debts and bills, this is something I didn't know until I started to meet celebrities. After he pays off some of the family debts and bills, maybe buys something for him, he's broke. And guess who they rely on a day-to-day basis? Her income. Right? So in the Black family, when we start to talk of just the head of household in terms of the day-to-day functioning in the Black community, that's often been deferred to women. Right? If you live in a welfare household and she's the one whose name is on the docket in terms of the housing you live in, guess who's the head of household? Guess who gets to determine who lives there and who doesn't? Right? Especially if you don't have access to consistent employment. Right? So when we talk about a gynocracy, we're talking about a pseudo female patriarchy subsidized by white society. And it has mutated into all kinds of very unpredictable, contexts. But it is what the Black community has become. And after about 65 years, give or take, of this, white folk got tired of paying the tab. Money ran out anyway, but they got their investment. They got their dollars worth from it. You ain't seen the civil rights movement since. Right? They got what they paid for. I mean, we're still acknowledged around the world for various things, but it isn't necessarily what we were acknowledged for in the 60s. So this is where we are. We now have a 12-point foundation for how the Black Gynocracy came to be. So you can see what it means and how it functions and how you have likely experienced it in your life as a Black man. The social expectations people have of you, whether you just met them or whether you grew up with them, the expectations put upon you, the limitations that you've had to grapple with. And many Black men who have reached the middle class, as it were, did so in spite of a lack of support. Not because we got support. There were no safety nets for us. Those of us that were able to achieve did so in spite of. And the reality is we were always 6 degrees away. Look, there's no Black man that I've met, and it's a bit of an exaggeration, but in a way it's not. When I talk to these brothers, there's no Black man I know that can't tell me the 6 degrees between where they are now and sleeping under a bridge. Each one can tell you. And it's not a lot. It's not a lot. Most people I know that fantasize about 6-figure income folks and being either getting 6 figures or getting a man with 6 figures. When this language started in the 80s, 6 figures meant something different. But now 6 figures, you know how many people are living check to check who are making 6 figures? If they lose their check in September or out on their ass in October, it's no joke. 6 figures does not mean what we have decided it meant socially. Now, don't get me wrong, when you look at income, you're only talking about 9-10% of America that gets that. So it's not something to be dismissed to earn 6 figures. It's a hell of an accomplishment, and it puts you way above the average American to be able to make over 100,000. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't mean what it once meant. There are a lot of people living check to check on 6 figures and above. And the road to poverty is not as long as you would think. We've seen a lot of Black celebrities over the last couple decades who lost everything and ended up broke. And most of us, many people would laugh, joke, dismiss. For me, it was eye-opening because it revealed to me how fleeting our sense of what wealth meant actually was. Fleeting. Shout out to Wrench Turner. What's good with you, fam? I ain't seen you in a minute. He says, my refusal to participate in the Black Gynocracy led me to keep my resources to myself. Like clockwork, everyone turned on me, and I've distanced myself from everyone, grown kids included, but I have peace of mind. I feel you. One of the things, brothers who, especially if you grew up in some relative degree of poverty and you actually were able to make it to this 6-figure mark, we've been hearing about it since the 80s. Right? That you had to get six figures to be considered respectable, to be considered desirable by women. And what many brothers found is you really didn't get treated very differently, other than people assumed your resources for themselves more readily. But there wasn't a significant difference in the amount of respect one garnered for making six figures. And this is jarring when you've heard all your life that you would be respected once you earned it. You would be treated differently in families and by women most particularly if you earned it, only to find out when you earned it, nothing really changed except for the expectations of what you were supposed to do for other people. We've already experienced the objectification of Black male life in our own communities. We've already experienced it. You know, if you remember grandfathers and great grandfathers that could fix anything with their hands, you'd often see them reduced to that. Whether you were old enough to understand it for what it was, they were objectified for what they could do. Whether it was sex, whether it was repair work, whether it was protecting them and fighting off other people or whatever, or, you know, being savvy with their fists or with some gunplay. We've often been objectified as, you know, that. But when you go from that to earning within a six-figure framework, many Black men started to discover what it was like to be seen as a walking ATM. Right? Whole different thing. Because you watch generations of men in your family struggle, and you finally reach this six-figure mark only to find another level and type of objectification. And for many men, they just, you know, they realized it wasn't worth it. But they would find their happiness wherever they find it. I get a lot of people that are mad at me because my work is not explicitly about repairing the Black community. My work is about helping Black men articulate their concerns. Where Black men choose to take that, I'm as curious to find as anybody else. But I want Black men to be able to make that determination on their own without coercion, without exploitation, without manipulation. I want Black men to choose what they want for their fucking selves, and I don't want anybody to manipulate them in any fashion. You let those brothers come to their own decision based on how they've been treated in this community to decide what they want to do. And if you've given them no reason to stay other than to suck it up and continue to be exploited, then you get what you get. If you're unwilling to compete for Black men and demonstrate that you can show them their validity, not just in what they pay for, but in who they are, yeah, and you can earn them. But if you just insist on taking them for granted because that's your idea of what men's roles should be in a community, then hey, if it fails, it might deserve to. Because the thing about it is, Black men are forming community wherever they go. And right now, they're going to a number of places. Shout out to Ghetto User. Says little or no support for us, Doc. There's nothing but facts. So, through it all, we Black men have kept on pushing. Yeah. We haven't really had a choice, but well, we did have a choice. I mean, you can quit. You can just give it up. You can stop. That is the choice. It's not an admirable one, but it is one. And I give credit to those brothers that refuse to give up. Shout out to them. Inspired Truth was good. Says, yes, making six figures actually brought more disrespect. The goal and the result was an awakening. Yeah. And for my longtime listeners, y'all know, I did a number of radio shows. The sister's name escapes me, but she has like an online radio show with Judge Joe Brown. And I had a chance to do a show with him several times. You know, I enjoyed the brother. And one day we had a conversation and I was telling him about my experience with, you know, being a Gen Xer and six figures and how it didn't result in more respect from women. And he sunned me. He sunned me. But, you know, he's an elder, so I didn't mind that. But he was like, son, they don't respect you when you make 8. He gonna skip over 7, right? He was like, they don't respect you either. That hit me. Hey, that hit me hard. That hit me hard. So they don't respect you even then. And then BGS, you know, went for the coup de grace, right? And I remember the first time I heard him say it, he was doing a show and he said, man, I've been I always forget the city he went to in South America. I keep wanting to say Colombia, but I don't think it was Colombia. But he said, when I went down there, I saw women sleeping on grass huts, paying their men more respect than brothers making six figures, taking care of whole families in America. And the jacked up part about it is he didn't really need to say it. We all kind of knew it, but to say it that way just kicked you in the chest. You know what it takes for a brother to anything over 60,000 is nothing easy for a black man in this society to achieve en masse. Individually, it may be easy for you, but statistically, looking at the numbers of how many of us that make 60 and up, that's no easy task for a black man to make in this society, only to be met with disrespect. But ultimately, going back to this question of repairing the community, I'm not against it. I'm not for it. My question is, what are you going to offer black men that you haven't offered before? What tangible thing are you going to offer them other than fall on your sword and serve until you die? Because that's played out. And whether we think it's right or wrong, men ain't going to do it. That's what they're demonstrating, especially young men. Young men are not playing that game. So the question becomes, what are you going to offer them? Other than to keep giving them rhetoric and telling them they should do it just because they should do it. That's not going to work. What are you going to offer them? And the thing I have, the thing that really impacts me more than anything is I don't really think I see a willingness for black women to even acknowledge what they've done, let alone apologize for it. And apologize doesn't mean say the words necessarily. The best apology is changed behavior. I haven't seen any significant push for changed behavior that would suggest. A few years ago, I saw a movement where women were trying to become wives and they were focusing on withholding sex until marriage. But at the same time, that just it looked like a dynamic that just sent men back to divorce court. I don't know. I didn't see the divorce rates change dramatically enough to suggest that was a line that would work. But I'd be happy to be wrong about that. So you got a lot of men going monk. You got a lot of men going over, getting their passports. A lot of men dating interculturally, interracially. It is what it is. My whole question is just, what y'all gonna do about it? Because I'm telling you, most brothers that I've met that are passport bros, that wasn't something they grew up dreaming about. Most of them, especially the students I meet, black males that come to my classroom, when you meet them, they're usually very specific about wanting to be married to a black woman and having children. Most of them come in with that dream. They do. They absolutely do. Things happen to deter them from that dream, though. And it doesn't really become an issue until they're married to someone else or living in a different country. Then all of a sudden there's something wrong with them. Nobody had nothing to say and they were being mistreated. So anyway, I just wanted to add those two things. So now we have a 12-point foundation for the Black Gynocracy. You can actually see how it was formed. You can see what resources, what magic beans our women were offered, black women were offered. And really, when you look at it, it's not a lot. Really, all it came down to is you don't got to live like him. We'll put you a little bit above, just a little bit. You still live in the same neighborhood. You still absorb the same poison in the air and the water and the food. You still have the same zip code. Still have poverty. But you're better than that nigga. And you get to determine the direction of the family. So it feeds your solipsism, but there it is. Shout out to Wrench Turn. Says, I stay having to fire Keisha in the workplace. Damn. Had a back and forth with a black woman, and I'm the site director. She's an hourly worker. Sent her ass home for 3 days. It's wild out here. Damn. You know what a lot of that probably was? And I hate to say it, right? It was just you. The fact that you were her director. I've seen, and I've experienced it. women that were sweet and kind as pie until you had authority over them, and they resented the fact that you did. Resented it. And would start fights, fights they wouldn't start with other directors or bosses or whatever, but they'll start them with you. Because who are you to have authority over them? You're not supposed to. Shout out to Discipline. What's good, man? We missed you last time. You asked about what film I'll be reviewing on my Patreon. I just did Lean On Me. I do a Patreon film review every 1st and 15th. So we did Lean On Me on the 1st, and this 15th, we're going to do Menace to Society. So if you want to join in, get on screen and discuss the film, you're welcome to do so. Just become a film review patron on Patreon. And you can just put Patreon and Dr. T. Hasan Johnson in Google. It'll bring you right to the page. Become a patron of the site, and you can join in, get in on the live discussion. So 1st and 15th of every month, we do a film, and we're doing Menace to Society next. So, yeah. Shout out to MC Recovery for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Wrench Turner says, facts. White men come in, they immediately show all 32 teeth. Yeah. Man. Let's see. So this one says, any panel for this tonight? How long we been here? We did about an hour. I'm kind of curious to test out my mixer and see if there's something I haven't set up. Let's see here. All right. I know these discussions get addictive and it can be hard to jump off, but I actually do have to jump off. I got to teach in the morning, but I will drop a link. Somebody wants to comment on the chart I put up. Your thoughts about it, what's missing, what you resonate with. I'll take a few people for a little bit. Just make sure your comments are to the point. We're not going to be here long. If you're willing to come up, you can do that. AB says that film's going to fail your test. We'll see. We will see. See, it's not all coming in the West. We have to move forward. Yeah. There we go. Let's see. All right. We got Chaos in the building. Y'all pop up, say a few words as you come through. What's good, Chaos?
What's good, man? Just touch base, listen to you, Dr. T.
What's
and good? my important question to ask you, in regards to the status of our mental health right now as it stands as Black men, you think that because the government has cut so much funding to address the issues, that the few Black men that has, gone through their frustration and gone through an outburst to commit anything that will look bad on themselves and to other Black men, you think this is something that solely their responsibility to fix, or is it really us as Black men to try to help we're Black men to really catch and resolve any of these issues?
So let me see if I understand. You're asking whose responsibility is it for Black men who suffer from mental illness right now?
Yeah, it's like, like certain men they're crying for help, right? Like, what happened in North Carolina, and they're trying to pin this on black people, especially Black men, right? And no one said we only have so much we could possibly do, but usually if the government create the beast and he is solely responsible to try to put the funding needed for any one of our own that need help and was not getting help. You get me? Well, from what I've noticed, but that's just me,
I mean, I can't say this is my direct area, but I will say it just reminds me of the early 1980s under Reagan. And if it's anything like that, shit is going to get wild, first and foremost. And second, how much can be done about it by people in the community is going to be a question that I'm interested in seeing answered as well. Because the reality is, they're going to live where we are because they are us. So, the brothers that are going through this, I hope we'll find support amongst the brotherhood, but it's just a question of what we choose to do. But at the end of the day, when you add mental illness to poverty,
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's more than likely gonna be a mess, man.
Dr. T, you're saying two things that I'm very familiar with right now.
Get to it. What's up?
Mental illness and poverty. First of all, good evening to you. It's finally good to connect with you.
You as well.
But after the last 3 years and everything I've been through, and also given the fact that I'm in an interracial marriage,
Okay.
the mental pull that it had on me for a long while is crazy.
Yeah.
Because when I first did Diary of a Mad Snowman and I started speaking about mental health, you don't want to know the backlash I caught from that, from finally speaking out about it and speaking out about, what I've been through. I mean, I kicked cancer in the ass and people still think, you can't do anything. I'm still getting that, and my wife is still getting that.
Wow.
It's as you said, doctor, it's a mess.
So wait. You're saying you dealt with mental illness, poverty, and cancer?
Let me go down the list.
Oh shit.
Mental illness, poverty, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 2 toe amputations, blood clots in both lungs, 5 organs missing, still trying to get back on my feet financially, and no one seems, and I'm about to cry, so forgive me, and no one seems to care because of going through all this, and all I'm trying to do is get back on my feet so I can take a little financial pressure off of my wife.
Damn.
Not to mention kidney failure. I only have 1 kidney left. I put all my funding options out there whenever I do a stream, because I'm limited to working from home right now because I don't have any wheels.
Wow.
And all I'm trying to do is do my best and take the pressure off of my wife.
Wow.
Because she has literally carried us since 2021 when I had blood clots in both my lungs.
Shit. Man.
And on top of that, I had to deal with the mental health, and I'm still dealing with it today, of losing my daughter at 2 years old back in 2015.
Yeah. I lost mine too. I hear you.
I'm sorry for breaking down, but
whenever
I talk about stuff like this, it hits me.
So you have a show. How often do you do your show?
5 days a week. Snowman in the morning. And I also do alternative play-by-play whenever I can, trying to bring in money so I can help my family.
Okay. Now I promised everybody a shot, and so we're going to keep it short, but I want you to put the link to your channel in the comment section and tell people real quick when your next show is.
I'll be on tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Okay.
For Snowman in the morning.
Hey man, all I can say is, as superficial as it sounds, and I apologize, is keep your head up, man. And
always,
I hope the best for you. And
thank you.
But if there's anything we can do to get the word out, continue to let me know. You're welcome to come into my comments, drop your link, tell people when and where. You're absolutely welcome to do that. So,
a favor before I go, may I post my GoFundMe as well?
You can go ahead.
Thank you.
All right.
It's called Snowman's Road to Recovery.
All right, man. Who's up? I think Discipline came in right after Chaos. Is there anything you wanted to drop on this, Discipline? On the Gynocracy or anything else we've been talking about?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good, man. We missed you.
Oh yeah.
I
I wasn't able to catch that one. I'll be there for the next one though.
Cool.
Are these slides on the WordPress?
No, they're not, but I can put them there.
Okay.
I can put them there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just if I haven't done so by the time we hook up again, or send me an email, or just remind me, I can do it then.
All right.
Yeah. But cool. Anything else you want to drop? Because I'm just gonna let people say a few words.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know how to follow that, man. That's God bless, man.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. As I said, all this has happened in 3.5 years.
But brother, we're going through this. You know what I mean? And
yeah, man.
And this, I don't know if the, how many platforms there are for Black men to talk about these kind of things, but we need to, because you're not alone. There's a lot of brothers suffering in silence, and we that's how we're trained to do it. We just John Henry our way through it, but we also have to learn how to find ways to support one another, even if it's listening to the show, giving a like, sharing the link and letting people know the show is there. Whatever you can do to kind of give brothers a chance to build their platform. Let's see who's up next. Who wants to say something?
Yeah, I can dive in. Yes, sir.
I can say a couple words. Yeah, okay. I've been have been around a while. Just been moving back and to another place, and getting to new stuff and meeting new people and everything. And I think one thing that will help a lot of Black folk and a lot of Black men is to, if you have the means, go to places that respect you, go to places that, that are new, but also have people who will connect with you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't just stay in places that are toxic. You can't stay in places that are just, taking you bit by bit and taking parts of your soul. And I think that is something. I know the whole John Henry thing. We do it, but I honestly think that is one thing that's holding us back a bit, because you go through that, but at the end of the day, you're not thanked, you're not loved, and that will take parts of your soul, and it will continue to not you won't have any chance to reconnect with people you love anymore. You will see them as just antagonists or villains or what have you, even though they try to help you out of something, but you're just like, no, I don't want to deal with y'all right now. But I think the best thing you can do, find places that make you feel happy, make you feel relaxed, and it could be just you listening to some music, or just going in the car and driving, or just go move to a new place or something. Just do not be in a place that will
drain you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The key is if you can't find a place, you got to create one. You got to take the responsibility of creating one.
Yes.
Whether it involves other people, but even if it's by yourself, you know what I'm saying? Find whatever brings you peace. If you can't find it, create it. And only allow people that's going to support that energy. And anybody that's coming to drain you, tear that down, do not let them in your space, man. And so I completely support that, because these are not things that are created for us much of the time. We got to create it ourselves.
And that's why I always say when I do the diary, some things, brothers, we have to say to each other, especially to each other. I believe you and I believe in you.
Yeah.
That positive affirmation.
Oh yeah, and I think
will keep brothers going. And I say it every morning. Or I try to say it every morning. My wife says it to me, and it's just the positive affirmations have got to keep going. And one thing that gets on my nerves, and I'm hoping to start to break that, when brothers say to each other, I love you, and then they say either pause or no homo and things like that. I'm like, fuck all of that. I used to tell my dad on a nightly basis, I love you. Man to man.
Pause.
Hey, someone said it to me. Someone said it to me.
I feel you, man. And I just say to my brothers and sisters, everybody in my family, I tell them I love them. I tell them I'm always with them, and give them a bit of a side hug, even though it makes them feel a little awkward. But I'm like, hey, I care about you, and
exactly
that sort of stuff. So yeah,
man.
But hey, that's all I gotta say. Yeah, just a side hug and everything. So, but anyway, thank you so much. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace, and Brian, I'm praying for you, man.
I appreciate it.
Peace.
Appreciate it. We got 3 brothers that haven't had a chance to say something yet. So we got Shikari Don't Beat Me. God damn, Shikari Don't Beat Me. You filed for that. Wrench Turner and Panthros Fury, Officer Charles, So we'll just go in that order, and we'll leave Officer Charles the last word on it. Shikari,
I'll be brief. I think that
This thing got the worst timing.
I think one thing I want to list we hear all the time.
Wait, you breaking up. I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me? Give me a second. Let me grab some headphones real quick. Give me
Okay.
one quick second. Hold on.
All right. Spain Man, the link is up there. So if you want to pop in real quick, we're just doing a real quick kind of drive by, pop in. The whole show is kind of that way. So this was very unplanned. Go ahead, Shikari.
Do I sound better?
Yeah, you sound a lot better.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to say is because oftentimes we hear like dialogue about emotional intelligence and stuff like that and everything. And I don't think that's a completely invalid statement, but I think that that's a little broad when we hear it because it's not really specific. And I think a thing that add on to the conversation is emotional literacy, because I think express myself and being like literate or having a wide vocabulary is important to express yourself. I think we should talk about, emotional based terms and things like that to help assist with expressing how we feel when we're mad, angry, or sad. Because some people don't have the vocabulary, and because they don't have a vocabulary, they engage in behavior that's not conducive to, their well-being or resolving issues.
Okay.
So that's that.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Now, especially those of you on the screen or anybody that might still need to pop through, because I wouldn't take too many more, so we're just gonna be quick. Make sure if you got a channel, you tell people when you're doing something, let them know while you telling people what's up. Let's go ahead and go to Wrench Turner. What's good with you, man?
Yes, sir. What's going on, brother? I appreciate you having me on as always.
Oh man, it's always good, man. Got that deep ass voice I'm still jealous of, man. Go ahead.
It's that very weak voice, man.
Yeah, man. My 2 cents on the topic, man, is a few things. So the first thing I want to tell the brothers is, as you grow and as you get to a position where you're comfortable and you're not check to check, one of the things that you'll learn is that your circle of friends and even what you consider family is going to change, man. It's not necessarily going to be the people that are related to you by blood. It's going to be the people that help you keep that battery recharged, or the people that when it comes time to decompress, that are going to give you the good ideas, are going to give you the spots to go to, or going to give you some tools to help you continue to endure while you keep doing this difficult, heavy lifting.
Right.
The other thing that I'll say is with the recent events that happened today with Charlie Kirk, what we're experiencing is a very clear clash of cultural identities between the dominant society. And for the brothers, I say, man, stay out the way, stack your paper up, make sure you don't get caught in the fray, because as the saying goes, when white people get the flu, when white folks get the cold, black folks get the flu. It's gonna be a lot of stuff moving and shaking and happening around you, bro. But stack your paper up, stay out of the fray, and make sure you got a solid network of other brothers or other people in general that are gonna that help you continue to move towards your goal. I'll land my plane there, bro.
Well, you can't get out of here without quickly addressing what you put in the chat, man.
Oh yeah.
And so was that the only one, or has that been a pattern?
Man, so I had a stint in Louisville, Kentucky, and this is one of the reasons why I had to slow down on making content, because I got took on a position that got a lot more visibility. But I took a stint in Louisville, Kentucky, and for those who don't know, Louisville is it's a fishbowl of debauchery, and us, I'll say us, our people, are running wild out there. So no, to answer your question, Doc, it's not the first time. I'm probably in the double digits for Keisha's that I don't have the 86 over the last couple of years. In the position that I am now, there's so many levels before it even supposed to get to me. You have a manager, you have a supervisor, you have a line leader. I work in food and beverage, but me as a site director, trying to do coaching on the floor and trying to help the team members get better at their job, because they're trying to get to where I am. So I'm like, hey man, let me give you some tools and let me give you what it's supposed to look like. And it turns into a back and forth. I'm like, man. So I get what her the person that she directly reports to is like, hey man, she needs to go home.
Oh,
Like
wow.
she has no clue. I'm actually trying to help her get better at what she's supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
But when you have the understanding that, oh, okay, this is not registering or it's not getting through to you because you're indoctrinated with that same cultural sickness of you don't have to respect me no matter what the position is. So no, I'd had to shit can a bunch of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The last piece, Doc, and then I land my plane. Another thing too, brothers, as y'all climb the ladder, man, you would suspect that you would see a lot more brothers like us at the top.
Yeah.
What you're gonna find is when you get there, man, you still gonna have a lot of them that are still come with the same indoctrination that a lot of us came up with. They still gonna put women first, or they still gonna have that hyper liberal, mama can do no wrong type of mentality too. So just be careful as you climb the ladder in that respect too.
Yeah, indeed. It's chess, not checkers. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Appreciate you coming through, man.
Absolutely, man. And I'll leave you some in the chat, man. I appreciate all that you do, brother.
I appreciate that as well, man. Enjoy a good stogie tonight for me. Shit.
Yes, sir. We'll do.
Yeah, be safe out there.
Dr. T, how you doing, Dr. T?
Absolutely, bless you, brother.
How you feeling, Dr. T?
Hold on one second.
You feeling?
Chaos. Somebody's mic'd up. So
how you doing, Dr. T? Dr. T.
I'm good, man. What's going on with you?
You know me, cool as the other side of the pillow. You know, drinking my car. Not drink my liquor. Smoke my cigars and hang with my niggas, but
I was gonna say, is there a cigar in the vicinity going on right now?
Oh yeah, you just gotta puff it out and say forget about it. Sometimes, how you been? Been a while since Cut Alive of yours, I see you got the Ginzu knife collection behind you.
Trying to get it together, man. I'm trying to get it together. I'm blessed in so many different ways, but we all have our struggles. So
yeah. You know me, I'm struggling like a Negro trying to run up north for freedom. Shoot.
So what's been happening?
Just working and getting things back in order, revamping. Just got finished cooking. Just saw you on live, just saying what's up and hello, and anybody who wants to come over and visit, the Charles Faulkner Jr. channel, you may. Keep your ego and whatever body parts you still want at the door. That's how we carry it. It's always good time, fun times. Hold
on one second. Shout out to Wrench Turner for that generous donation, brother. I'm glad to see you doing well. Keep your head up, fam. Appreciate that.
Oh, shout out to that, man. Shoot. Them swords don't buy themselves.
So now, are you still doing security?
Oh yeah. Still got the security company.
How's it going?
Ups and downs. I'm working for one company while revamping mine. So we coming up in the wait. I'm looking at a couple of places that have my business proposal under review. So hopefully we'll hear something soon. Okay. So we got to get you up to BlairCon one day.
Hey man. Anything to say about the Gynocracy information we put up, the unemployment, incarceration, anything about that? Anything you want to drop on that?
Oh, I've been on ground zero for that for almost 2 decades.
Right.
So, it's kind of funny because when you teach a bunch of rookie officers, you don't let anybody get away with it. Nobody's above the law, including yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that, despite, brothers are great, not because of, but in spite of that, because of our incarceration and our lack of direct education, that we still end up being great. I think that one, I've said this many of times, we're all we got. We have no allies, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have that type of mentality, you go about your life differently.
Yeah.
Stop looking what the women have and see what your advantages are. Because all the government, like you're seeing now with DEI, look what's happening. Hey, big head.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Hey,
got
big
boys
head.
that are getting 35-year-old hey big head car. I am too. I've gotten at least 3. So I know what you're talking about.
So, one thing about us, we know how to survive.
Yeah.
If we survive with the government hating us. Now
Mm.
you're starting to put a few trinkets our way. Oh boy, let's let the good times roll. I think that things like your how many your 327 step plan. I love it. And before that, when myself and Cerulean came out with the Great Faulkner Initiative, plans like that need to be the forefront of this space because it elevates not only us but future generations.
Yeah.
Because we may plant trees where we know not the shade of.
Right.
And you got to think about it. When my son turned 18 in July, think of what he's got to go through.
And it's ridiculous out there, man. My son turned 20 this summer.
Jesus,
he's
7-1 now.
He'll be 21 next summer, but he's 20. He's in his junior year of college. But the thing that's tripping me out is he said from the first year to now, he said the number of black students where he is just fell off a cliff. As a matter of fact, last spring, it was like in the middle of the semester, or probably the first third of the semester, they just vanished. Vanished. So he's like, he goes to the BSU just to see black faces. He said there's only about 10 people. And other than that, he sees no black people. And this is California,
Yeah.
So it's shit is getting rough. He said most of them dropped out because they had to go home and get jobs to help their parents.
Right. And I've said this before. The struggle is going to be real, especially since we're the canary in the coal mine when it came to feminism. And when it came to a lot of these orders.
Yep.
This is why I encouraged a lot of young black men. If you're not college ready, go to the military. Join the police, fire. At least you'll be in middle class and you have skills to pay the bills. And you have enough money if you want to go to college once you're mature enough, if you can actually finance yourself instead of getting loans. You give yourself a lot of economic freedom that way. And we couple of guys I've mentored through the years, it worked. I've probably influenced a good amount of the law enforcement and military. We have one brother, Mello. He just got married and he's doing military intelligence for 5th Group Special Forces.
Okay.
So we've been training guys for armed security and other things for years. So I've always said it, always have a plan. Give it. And I'm going to say this for a lot of the fathers, especially for your sons. Give your kids some latitude, but also make sure they follow the plan. You got to be that hovering because I'm like, look, this is the plan. Do this at least up to this. The life's yours. We'll help you out. But we're afraid once a child turns 16, we're hands off totally. No, that's the reason why we're being beaten and defeated by other races of people, because we stop being hands on when probably when the children are older, we probably need to be more so. Teach them to go how to circumvent our failures.
Yeah, the days of pushing an 18-year-old out, a 17-year-old out on the street and they fix it themselves, that's not happening anymore, man. They need layers of support. So you got to be the one to kind of help them, guide them, figure out what their skills are, help them figure out how to navigate, because there is no support mechanism for them out there anymore.
No, there's no age of adolescence for black boys. Right. For those who don't know what that means, by the legal terms, boys will be boys, like they're misadventures. You're treated like a grown man as soon as you can realize right from wrong.
Exactly.
And you have to be, unfortunately, we don't have that age where, you get to be, the vanilla ice and then wear a suit to court and get respected. So
no.
I think that's what you're doing is God's work. Keep it up, I might do a live stream myself in a few. Who knows how I feel, but hey, I'll be in the win. You catch me up there in the shadow doing the shadow work. See, You and Dr. Neil, y'all the light. I'm the dark Hokage. I'm the guy behind the scenes to make sure nothing happens.
Well, appreciate it, man. I hoping you're well, good brother. Keep
Always
your head up
pleasure.
out there.
Of course, you too. You know what they say in the military: keep your ass low and your head lower.
All right, man. Peace. Chaos, discipline. I appreciate y'all coming up. You know, if you got a last word, make it quick because we're gonna shut it down. But other than that, I want to thank y'all for popping up real quick.
Shit, that's a good question. I don't really have anything else to say. You know, I'm all out. That's it for me.
All right, man.
Yeah, protect yourselves. That's all I can say.
Real talk. All right, man. I'll holler at y'all later. So let me just take this down and yeah, man. So look, I'm not much for ego and whatnot. I like to get to a truth and to a point that may not be exciting for folks, may not be flashy, but there's a point where we got to be real with ourselves. And you know, that 3 to 5 in the morning period where it's just you and life, and you can't perform or pretend you're not grappling with it. I talk to that person, and I'm trying to say, look, you know, keep your head up. The reality of what we're dealing with is real. Don't let people gaslight you into telling you that what you're dealing with is just in your head. We're dealing with it, and find like-minded brothers who are willing to support you, but definitely support yourselves, man. And if you find yourself really questioning whether or not you still want to be here, as it were, I do support, you know, reaching out, finding the 800 numbers and whatnot for self-deletion protection and all of that. It's a reality that too many of us don't want to accept, but we need to. Usually it's something going into December that tends to get worse and worse. But in the midst of this environment and what folks are grappling with, I like to urge people to keep their head up, because you don't always know what people are carrying and what they don't tell you, what's going on with them. But we got to find ways to support one another and be a resource to one another, because sometimes shit gets tight and you don't even know. You don't know it yourself till it hits you. You don't know what other people are carrying until it hits you. So I'm trying to pull this number up. There it is. Yeah, here we go. So I like to put this up every once in a while, just for the sake of making sure y'all don't forget. So if anybody's dealing with issues around self-deletion, there's the number there. You're dealing with issues around depression, you know, there are a number of things that one can do. Definitely start with talking to supportive people. I would look for counselors and therapists that you think might be able to provide a resource, but don't sit with it by yourself in the dark. Reach out, talk to people, get out, shake hands, touch grass, all that good stuff, but definitely find support, because a lot of the stuff that comes up that brothers are dealing with, we don't speak about in public, and we need to find resources. And just like as was discussed a little bit earlier, if you can't find support, create it to the best of your ability. But I just wanted to pop up and just kind of give a few words. Shout out to Gail. I see you in there. Hope you're well. Ray, what's going on with you, man? Lee, what's happening? See a few people just popping in. This was a unscripted. I literally didn't know I was going to do it till I clicked live. I was just like, I'm going to test this mixer out, say a few words. So I appreciate those that came through. I appreciate those in the comment section. I appreciate the replay gang. If you got something to drop in there that we didn't touch on, something you want to add, something we missed, or something you want to just, you know, talk about in relation to the discussion around the gynocracy. If you got some stories to share, feel free to share them. Other than that, I wish you well. Like I said, I'll be on Patreon on the 15th. We're going to be talking about Minister Society. So come through, dialogue with us, become a patron of the channel, and you can come in to the live discussion, come up on screen, and we can chop it up. All that good stuff is going on. Other than that, I look forward to touching base with y'all later, and we will go from there. All right. So Let me see here. All right. Y'all have a good one. Peace.